What's going on, everybody? John Stamper from John Stamper Media. I am here. It's Dykema's 10th annual conference, and it has been a blast. It is day 2, and we wanted to take some time to have another conversation. What I thought we would do is there was some really engaging workshops here. It's one of the main reasons why a lot of the DSOs come. They want to connect with people in the industry that are doing things, seeing things, connect it with products and services and technologies, all of that great stuff. So it's Friday morning, and I'm able to meet with Jill Nesbitt from Optimize. How you doing, Jill?
Fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's great to see you. And so you led yesterday a tech discovery workshop, which I think is very interesting, but I'd love to have you share with everybody kind of how it was put together, CIOs in there and all of that.
Yes, thank you for asking. I have been working on this project for a few months, and it was very well received. So let me kind of give you a flavor. We had around 20 or so CIOs primarily in the room. And the way I facilitated that was that we were going to talk through what is your tech stack across the patient sort of journey.
Okay.
And we did it by category. So we did a little activity and had everybody, all right, write down what are the different products and software primarily that you're using in each category. Then, because I didn't have any tech vendors in the room, then they were able to sit down and we just facilitated a conversation. What's working well? What do you like? And then where do things fall down or where are the gaps? And they really were very honest with each other and talked about it, both on the positives as well as their struggles.
Yeah.
The feedback that I got after the session was, well, let me pause. After each part of that discussion, then I also shared a handful of new technologies that we're aware of. And so after the session was over, I had several people say to me, this was maybe one of the better pieces of the conference. Yeah. In fact, I heard that after a couple of days, which made me feel pretty good.
Yes, I love that.
But they really appreciated being able to have a frank discussion about what's working and what's not, and really to hear from each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the structure of it. And it went really well. Just like you said, we're always trying to connect in the hallway or behind the scenes to have that conversation, but to have it sort of moderated, specific conversations. In fact, you can get a sense of how much engagement we had when I had 8 categories we were going to talk through. We got through 3.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I talk about this a lot. There has been this explosion in software in the last 3 to 4 years in dentistry, and I think everybody's excited about it. And so, yeah, if I'm a CIO at a DSO and I'm looking at, 5, 10, 100, 200 locations, that's a big decision. And now you have to pull all those pieces together in regards, like you said, from, the complete patient journey and all of that. So can you get into a little bit of the details of some of the things that they liked? What are some of the things that they're working and more importantly, maybe some of the actual softwares that they're finding, results with?
So I think it was really valuable to hear one of the major pieces around what they're liking is they like to start with what are the KPIs so they can say, where is the gap that we're trying to fill? And then what's the technology that solves that?
Right.
So I found it really interesting in saying, instead of saying, oh, that's new and cool, what's going on with that? I think they're trying to actually take a step back and say, okay, so they're generally happy with their analytics. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of conversation about some of the different analytics platforms, Jarvis, of course, for example.
Yep.
And so they're happy with starting there. Then the trick, and there's a lot of really interesting conversation. A hot topic was all around marketing.
Okay.
And how do we know and get, kind of that call center software was a big conversation about what crazy percentages of phone calls are not getting answered or then scheduled or then successfully completed.
Right.
So there's a lot of conversation about that. There was some really specific revenue cycle things that they liked. Forgive me for not giving you all the exact honestly, on those I had a page on each wall or on all the walls for each of these categories. They were literally full. I was I think that was the huge blow away for me. So one of the groups, I hadn't realized it had grown this much. Last I knew, there were maybe 50 or 60 offices. He said they're at 120. Wow. And he said some weeks they go live with 2 or 3 offices in a week.
Wow.
So they have, he said, the way they're handling their tech stack, if you're not part of one of 4 practice management softwares, then you have to convert. But they're not, so they haven't standardized on one. So I have not heard that approach. So there was just a lot of really interesting ways. There was also a lot of agreement around frustration, which is probably your next question about what do they like, what do they not. There's a lot of frustration around revenue cycle. that if you purchase this one, well, it handles this little segment, but that leaves this gap. And so you're purchasing that. Like, it was pretty common to say, all right, in rev cycle, we might have 4 different products that we're using, and didn't feel like they could really get rid of any of them.
Yeah. And then how do those work with all the other companies, like you said, for the complete journey, which is crucial. And I would imagine, was there any discussion from them on the confidence they need to scale? Like you talked about going from 50 to 120 and the speed that some of these groups are growing, that the confidence that they need in that tech stack, that as they either acquire those practices or they're de novos, that they feel confident that they have what they need from front to back. I mean, I don't even know if you got into that with all the different details, but...
Actually, one of the other things, not just this facilitated conversation in this workshop, I had, and I'm going to do a shout out because he did such a great job. I had Tom Cregan from Houlihan Lokey as the investment bank perspective, and he kind of wrapped up this entire afternoon, and he really spoke to the days of just aggregation are over.
Right.
And he said, from an investment perspective, when you come to me and you say, hey, I want you to represent in this transaction, he said, really, we're looking for what your differentiators are. And technology can, in fact, be that.
Right.
If you've done it well, if you are actually using the standardized approach so you can implement your model successfully. And I felt like that really summed up that attitude that it's not about just going fast. It's about being able to implement and drive bottom line.
Right.
And I thought that's so, because that's not really been the case, minus the last year when everyone's pretty much been on pause. Pretty much what we've seen up till last year is we just grow top line revenue, add. I really feel that conversation is pivoted into how are we driving EBITDA? And then and I think the best way of doing that, and maybe I'm biased since I like the technology, but I think technology is the way that, especially around staffing, like that was another piece.
Yeah.
Lots of things.
So it's interesting. I got to sit down with Dr. Kelly from P1 Dental Partners, and they had they had taken like 11 practices that were all on different software platforms in the last 12 months and had to move them to one. But one of the things that he said was interesting is that you talked about the investors. They're now a stakeholder. One of the things that Dr. Kelly liked is being able to have that dashboard of analytics for their investors. They are now a stakeholder at the table. And so to your point, having that technology summed up in a way, and you know how it works, but you're an investor, that's the world they live in. You have to have dashboards that have the KPIs that matter. You can't have things jumping all over the place. You can't be wasting their time. And so it sounds like, these groups are understanding the importance of that. And looking at all the different softwares and what's going to, give them that peace of mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. The analytics, when you start thinking about, oh no, I need analytics so that I can have my office manager run an effective morning huddle. Well, and then you're like, well, I need my doctor to know how close we are to getting bonus or how his comp is going to turn out. Right. And then you think, well, wait, my regional managers need this, but it goes all the way up to even outside the organization. Absolutely. Like you said, into the PE firm or bank, et cetera. So no, it really
big decisions, which doesn't surprise me. Why the workshop was so engaging, because I think here's the exciting thing. It feels like so many of the companies now are getting closer to these practices and they're learning from them. You're a good example of running this workshop, with the work that you do at Optimize on the consulting side, whether you see this all the time, but they want to be able, it sounds like, to give that feedback to the companies so the companies can put in that tech stack the things that are going to help them move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Any final takeaways from that you could just think of other than, their excitement?
Yeah. Actually, because we only got through 3 of the 8 categories, I think what we're going to do another one remotely.
Yeah.
That's also going to give the opportunity, because I had a couple friends that were supposed to be in the room and their flights got messed up. So they couldn't even make it here to participate. So I think it's kind of a fun idea to say, all right, something that we've started in person now can also continue and be remote and then expand to other people. So maybe the takeaway might be, hey, if that's something you're interested in, I'm going to do some invitations and see if that's, again, just for the DSOs to really talk through what's the tech stack, what's working, and where are the challenges.
And it sounds like what's next with that is then that feedback, is going to go to the companies that have these platforms for these for these groups to decide who can I work with that is going to be able to provide me all of that. Yes.
I asked, I had some help in the workshop, had a woman that was taking a bunch of notes for me and kind of collating those. She hasn't sent them to me yet, but I did have kind of in my head, like, if we could get it really organized and kind of cleaned up, pros and cons, or, things that are going well or not for some of these different software companies, I did think that might be helpful to kind of go back at least to the room, because unless you were trying to take notes and keep track, we jumped pretty quickly between different kinds of software and who's using what.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd have to see how I might want to use that information, especially when we get through the whole.
Absolutely. Yeah. Super valuable. Well, Jill, thanks so much. Right. It's been a great couple of days. I mean, when I think about the people that are here, the energy of this meeting has been amazing. And it is Friday morning. And so thanks again for taking the time, and best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got it.